The lights went out at 6:47 in the evening on a Tuesday in January, and for a few seconds, the entire 14th floor of the Callaway Group's headquarters was just a wall of black glass reflecting the storm outside. I was already in the east stairwell when it happened. The grid failure hit the building in two stages. First, the overhead fluorescents, then the emergency panels on floors 10 through 16 when the backup relay seized. I knew it would. The relay was on the maintenance schedule I'd filed with the property manager 3 weeks prior. He'd marked it low priority. I didn't argue. I got a flashlight, a pair of rubber-soled boots, and I started working my way up from the basement. That's how I've always operated. Not with noise. With a flashlight and a plan. My name is Walt Greer. I'm the building superintendent for the Callaway Group's corporate campus at 6th and Marion. Before that, I spent 22 years as a licensed water systems engineer for the city. Municipal infrastructure, distribution networks, pressure modeling, the kind of work nobody thinks about until the water stops running. I walked away from all of it when my wife Ellen died. Owen was 9. He needed a father who came home at the same time every day, who was there when the school bus pulled up, ate dinner at the table with him instead of reading pressure reports on a laptop. So I took the super job at Callaway. The pay was less. The title was smaller. Owen's bus stopped right in front of the building, and I could see it from the lobby window every morning at 7:52. That was the math that mattered. I was on the 12th floor landing when I heard the sound. A quick, sharp click of heels somewhere above me, then nothing. I pointed the flashlight up the stairwell. Hello? A beat of silence, then yes, I'm here, 14th. The elevator, it just stopped. I couldn't find the exit sign, and I've been. She stopped herself, collected. I'm fine, I just need to get down. I started up. She was standing against the fire door at the top of the 14th floor landing. A laptop bag over one shoulder, phone screen casting pale light on her face, dark blazer, the kind of heels that don't belong in a stairwell. She looked at my flashlight the way people look at something they didn't expect to be grateful for. Building super, I said. I'm going to get you out. Stay close to the rail. She didn't ask questions. I'll give her that. We started down. Her name was Dana Callaway. I knew who she was. You work in a building long enough. You know everyone by sight, even the ones who've never learned your name. She ran the company her father had started, had doubled its size in 8 years, was the kind of person whose presence you could feel in a hallway before you heard her. She was also, right now, picking her way carefully down a dark stairwell in 3-inch heels, one hand on the rail, trusting a man she'd never spoken to, kept the beam steady, and I kept my pace to hers, and I didn't rush her. Between the 9th and 8th floors, the generator kicked on for floors 1 through 9. The stairwell below us lit up in low amber emergency light. Heard her exhale. Almost there, I said. The problem was the landing between 3 and 2. The building sits on a slope, and when we get heavy rain, the kind we'd been getting all week, water finds its way along the east foundation wall and pools on that landing before the floor drains catch it. It had been on my list too. Tonight it was 4 inches deep and very cold. I stepped into it first. It's not deep, I said, but it's cold and the floor's slick. Give me the bag. She hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then she handed it over without a word. I slung it over my shoulder beside my tool bag, and I waded across to check the far side, then turned back and reached out my hand. She took it. We crossed. Her free hand gripped the rail, so hard her knuckles went white, but she didn't slow down and she didn't complain. When we reached the dry landing, she let go, straightened her blazer and looked at me. Thank you, she said. She meant it. You can hear the difference. Watch the last step, I said. It's uneven. We came out through the lobby doors into the cold air, the storm still working its way through downtown, puddles on the plaza reflecting the traffic lights. The generator had the lobby lit behind us. She turned, and I could see her looking for something to say. Something more than thank you. Something that fit the moment. The relay in the east panel had just reset, and I needed to get back in before it cycled incorrectly and took the emergency lighting with it. I told her the building was stable, that the grid would be back within the hour, that her office would be accessible in the morning. She nodded. I went back inside. I don't know what I expected from that. Nothing, probably. I'm not the kind of man who does things expecting something in return. Shh. Ellen used to say that about Mimi. That I was built for maintenance work in the deepest sense of the word, that I found something satisfying about keeping things running quietly behind the walls. She wasn't wrong. I do find it satisfying. Pump that nobody hears, the pressure that stays steady, the light that stays on. The water was the same way. In early December, 6 weeks before the blackout, a 30-year-old water main on the block behind the building failed during a freeze event, took out the primary municipal feed to the campus. The city's repair estimate was 11 to 14 days. The building's facilities director started talking about a temporary shutdown, relocating staff, routing around the gap. I sat with the city's distribution map for one evening. I identified an alternate feed off the secondary grid 2 blocks north, ran the pressure calculations, drafted the reroute. It required a temporary bypass valve and about 14 hours of work over 2 days. It was not complicated. It was just engineering. The kind of thing you do when you've spent 2 decades understanding how water moves through a city. Filed the work report. I signed it the way I sign everything. Walter T. Greer, P.E. My license is still current. I renew it every 2 years, the same way I change the filters on the air handlers, because it's the right thing to keep up. The building never lost water. Nobody asked how. I went home and made Owens dinner and helped him with a geography project about the Columbia River watershed, and we talked about where rivers go when they run underground. The next morning after the blackout, I was in the basement by 6. New filter on the east pump. The relay needed a proper bracket. I'd ordered the part. Owen's bus came at 7:52. I could hear it even from down here. If I stood near the lobby stair, that familiar sound of air brakes and the door folding open. I knew without looking that he'd be the second one off. That he'd glance at the building the way he always did. A quick look toward the lobby window. I was never sure if he could see me through it. I always figured it didn't matter. I was there. That's the part that counts. I was fitting the bracket when I heard footsteps on the stairs. The basement stairs, which almost no one uses. I turned. Dana Calloway was standing in the doorway of the mechanical room, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. She looked at the pipes, at the workbench, at the rack of files along the wall. Then she looked at the photograph I'd taped to the cabinet above the bench. Owen at 11, at his school science fair, holding a display board about river hydrology that he'd made mostly on his own. She looked at it for a moment before she looked at me. My facilities director put a report on my desk this morning, she said. The water reroute from December. He thought I should see it because we're bidding on a new infrastructure contract, and he wanted to show me what we're capable of. Apparently the city engineer who reviewed the work called it elegant. She paused. The signature on the report is yours. Didn't say anything. You kept this building running, she said. While my team was talking about a 2-week shutdown, you just fixed it. And you didn't tell anyone. It was in the work report, I said. Nobody read it. She wasn't defensive about it, just honest. She set one of the cups on the edge of the workbench, carefully, away from the parts. I didn't know your name until this morning. I looked at the cup. Steam was coming off it. Owen's in 7th grade, she said, looking again at the photograph. That's the science fair? Systems, I said. He's interested in hydrology. Something shifted in her face. The particular expression of someone recalibrating. Not embarrassment, exactly. Something quieter than that. I'll read the work reports from now on, she said. She left the second cup on the bench and went back up the stairs. I stood there, for a moment, the bracket in my hand, the hum of the pump, steady, beside me. The mechanical room smelled the same as it always did. Metal and mineral water and something faintly warm from boiler. I've spent a lot of hours in rooms like this one. Good hours, most of them. There is something to be said for work that is honest and necessary. Work that holds things up even when no one is watching. Especially then. I drank the coffee. It was good coffee. Better than what comes out of the machine upstairs. I noticed that. I also noticed that she'd gotten the temperature right. That she'd come down here alone. And that she hadn't made a speech about it. Those things registered the way a correctly torqued fitting registers. Quietly, with a kind of satisfaction that doesn't need to announce itself. At 7:52 I heard the bus. I stood near the lobby stair and listened to the air brakes in the door. Owen would look at the window. I couldn't always see him clearly through the glass. And I knew he probably couldn't see me either. But I was there. I have always been there. It's the work. All of it. The pipes, the pressure, the dark stairwell, the 4 inches of cold water on the landing between floors. 14-hour reroute that kept the lights on when the main broke open. The bus at 7:52. You keep things flowing. Not for the credit. Things need to flow, and you are the one who knows how. That's enough.